Hello and welcome to the Functionally Enlightened Podcast with Dr. Sharon Sarita. We interview well-respected medical and functional practitioners, as well as patients who have overcome disabling chronic conditions, such as dysautonomia, and reclaimed their health. These enlightened guests provide helpful tips on managing chronic pain and illnesses, using a combination of traditional and whole-body healing modalities. If you're interested in natural healing and quality of life improvement, you're in the right place. Thank you for listening to today's episode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Functionally Enlightened Podcast. We're here today with Adriana Shuman, who is the founder of Your Wellness Made Simple, and she brings a pharmacy background from Slovakia and a deeply personal journey into holistic health after witnessing her family and patients struggle with chronic illness. Now based in the U.S., she helps clients, most of whom are on medications and dealing with inflammation, gut dysbiosis, which we touch on pretty often on our show, blood sugar issues, and more. She helps them get to the root cause of their symptoms through mindset work, environmental detox, and sustainable lifestyle changes. So she is also featured in Sensitive, the documentary on highly sensitive people. Adriana brings compassion, practicality, and lived experience to her work, reminding us that healing really starts by questioning old beliefs and cleaning up our inner soil. Welcome, Adriana.
Thank you so much. So great to be here. And thank you for pronouncing my name in a way that is really hard in English language normally. So thank you.
Of course. So your journey into the holistic health, it has deep roots. And was there any defining moment when you realized conventional medicine just wasn't enough? We're always curious about the pivot point where clinicians begin to question the system and choose a path that really honors the body.
Yeah, that's right. There are always these pivotal moments, I would say. There were many pivotal moments. And I would say going back to my childhood was watching all my family members suffering from cancer and eventually dying from cancer, and me then going into pharmacy and studying at a pharmaceutical university in Slovakia and learning about the biology, biochemistry, and understanding the body, understanding the environment, understanding medicine and what it actually does, how it treats diseases, and just getting this really good picture, and also, going really deep dive into health and medicine. Those were all pivotal moments where I saw this connection between an actual healing, between health and managing symptoms. When I was practicing pharmacy during my years in school, that was a big moment there for me. I remember telling my friends and just feeling that inner pull that I don't want to be handing out medication like people are handing out grocery, like in a grocery store, it's like handing out food. Like I can't do this. This is not for me. And there was a lot of these little moments as I was going through my life journey, as we all go through, and I have been really able to pay attention to my body and how I feel and how things are actually making sense, even though I was not really allowed to speak my truth and live the way I really wanted to live. That light inside was still there, and I tried to follow it as much as I could. So once I arrived to the US after I finished university when I was 26, I wanted to go back to pharmacy. I didn't speak English. I basically escaped my country, and I was considering going back to pharmacy. And then there was just a huge no, like, no, there is something else. You need to really dive into what's called functional medicine, but it's really just going back to nature and understanding the body, understanding the environment, how it affects us, and just keep going back to the nature. So that was kind of, that was the story of me really realizing, like, okay, I am done with pharmacy. I'm using what I have learned at the university, understanding the science, which has been incredibly helpful for me to then understand the body and helping people heal from the roots up instead of masking symptoms.
So in your academic training, you were just talking about how you pivoted away from traditional pharmacy. What elements really resonated with your soul, and which ones still show up in how you support clients today?
It's really about I go back to understand your body, and it doesn't mean that you have to be a biologist, a doctor, or, it's just the basics understanding of your body and the environment that you live in, the environment that's inside of you, whether it's chronic stress, trauma. And my clients are often very surprised starting to work with me is that we start with the inner environment. They're coming to me because of most of them, unfortunately, already have diseases and they are on medication. And I would rather start working with people at preventing those. But that's the unfortunate thing about humans. We just keep waiting and waiting and until it's just so bad. And we have spent so much money, so many resources, so much time going from doctor to doctor, being on medication. And now we're like, okay, this is not working. I really need something else. And then they find me and we really start from the inner environment. And they're surprised because when you have chronic stress, everyday stress, wherever it's coming from, it can be family, it can be work, just life, in general, and not normalizing, but understanding we're not supposed to live in this chronic stress. But most often it is trauma that has never been actually resolved from childhood, which was my case. And that's why I have a huge compassion when it comes to childhood trauma. And many people have it and they don't even realize it. And that is being stored in a body. And we have to really, I'm not the person to deal with it, but I'm the person to uncover it and make people aware of it, that this is one part of the healing journey and creating health, really uncovering what's going on inside the body, because there have been many books written on how trauma is stored in our organs, and you can eat all the great food, you can exercise, you can sleep, you can have all these things, which I call my pillars that, we'll probably get into, super optimal. But if there are constant triggers coming up for you that you're not even aware of, that are they're just causing this chronic inflammation in the body. That chronic inflammation leads to eventually diseases. I mean, there's just so many times when I uncover, I'm just going back and thinking about my clients. I had one client who, working with him, he had trouble sleeping and just, going through his childhood and just kind of life. We discovered how his mother was coming to the room at night when he was a child and turning lights on and cleaning the room and didn't let him sleep. And he didn't even realize it, how that was connected to his sleep apnea and just all these stress. Like, these are just so many things that people don't realize. And once it's out and we're becoming aware, you don't necessarily need to go and now deal with the trauma itself, but just understanding these wounds and being aware of them. So then you can shift it in your mind, and then you can shift the behavior much easier instead of just hitting your head against the wall. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's really how I always start with my clients, mm-hmm. that leads to that big shift of transformation. Then we move to the other pillars.
I do agree with that 100%. And I love that you brought that up at the forefront, because these traumas, we're taught to suppress them, and suppressing and moving on, but they can manifest in so many different symptoms in the body. And I myself am using different tools, including craniosacral therapy, to work through my childhood traumas that I didn't think were really relevant, but I do see how they've impacted my sleep and just how they've kind of shaped my personality going through life. And, that type A personality where you're trying to meet people's expectations or exceed their expectations at all costs. So I see that. And I do see that often in the people I work with as well, because for, I guess, 80% or so of the clients that I see have gone through a type of implant, whether it was a hernia repair or a breast implant. So there's always this aesthetic component around that, and the belief that this surgery is going to make me perform better in whatever capacity. So I do love that you highlighted that, like what really shapes us and where we're getting held back in our journeys. So.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you relate to that, because I think it's something that we're talking a lot now, finally, about environmental toxins, but I don't think we're talking enough about what I call the inner environment. which is the toxicity of stress and trauma that, we didn't choose, but we have to, it's our response. I tell people that was not, you didn't deserve that, whatever happened to you as a child. But it is your responsibility to now deal with it if you want to create health. That's just what it is, right? You can't blame, doesn't help anyone. We really have to take responsibility, and if we want to create health, we really have to, find ways that heal, which there are incredible resources right now. And, I went through it myself, so I know pretty much all of them. And it's just a very important part of the whole health journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many of our listeners, they are navigating chronic illness, and I'm sure a lot of the clients or the people that you serve as well. So with them, if they're trying to recover from some type of toxicity, right? What are some of the most surprising things that you see in terms of environmental toxins that might be in our homes that are often overlooked, but really can be disruptive?
Yeah, so I have my book is coming out May 13th, and in that pre-launch of the book, actually, if anybody buys the book before May 13th, they get a quick start guide that goes through. It's very simple to follow. You don't really have to actually think. I created it as a companion to the book, so you can start right away. And that answers your question in a simple way. I go through the whole house, which is like kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and then kind of a whole house, and thinking about 4 or 5 things in each of the rooms that are very often just flooded with toxins, which we don't even realize, and start identifying those and eliminating those. My priority is always not to get overwhelmed. So don't think about all of these things. That's why I like to kind of, I have this house checklist where you really just start with your kitchen, for example. And you can start as simply as, is your water filtered? Do you have reverse osmosis filter? Because I also, when I ask people, is your water filtered? Yeah, but then when I looked into the filter, it doesn't actually filter fluoride, it doesn't filter chlorine, it doesn't filter, a bunch of other stuff. So reverse osmosis is really the best one. So that's one of those things. You can start as simple as that, right? I just send out newsletter actually today. Every Thursday I send out a newsletter, and I reminded people about plastics and where it can all be found, and give them other sources. And I had one lady literally emailed me. She's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I don't really have plastics, but I wrap my cheese in a plastic wrap. What can I do? I'm like, beeswax, right?
Yes.
So yeah, because, and especially when there's fat and plastics, that's when it gets dangerous. Heat, fat, oils, acidity. That's when the plastics really get absorbed into the food. And now we know that they disrupt our hormones, which hormones are messengers, right? They're telling our cells what to do, when to do, how to do, right? So we want to make sure that our hormones are not affected by these toxins. We now know they're obesogens. There's a lot of people who are struggling with losing weight, losing fat, I would say. And so making sure that we have, plastics removed from our home. So that's kind of where I would start. And I'm going to actually say the third one, which is really, really big and really extremely toxic that people don't realize, is fragrances, synthetic fragrances, which are in washing, anything that you're washing, dishes, clothing, dryer sheets, your moisturizers, and whatever you're using, shampoos and candles, just everywhere. And that's something that is extremely toxic without even us realizing, because we're so used to the smell. And we breathe it in, which there is not even a barrier. Now it goes straight into your brain, and it's affecting you neurologically, which you're not realizing. Our body and our brains adapt really well. So we kind of get used to the way we feel, and we don't even know that we can actually feel much better if we just remove all this stuff, right? So, to help your listeners, I think this is what just kind of came to me right now. So this is where I would start, but always do one thing at a time.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because a lot of the people that are struggling with this dysautonomia-like symptoms, or what we call Asia syndrome, they have that heightened sensitivity, right? So it's not only odor, it's also sound, lights, all of these things. And by removing whatever is overstimulating the system, including those fragrances you mentioned, they can only do a benefit to themselves. So are there other things that you can think about that they can remove pretty quickly, that it's easy to kind of identify in their daily routines?
Yeah. Well, I was talking about the water filter, plastics, and fragrances. I mean, you're talking about light. I mean, this is a big one for sleep and overall hormone production. Again, managing cortisol and melatonin. We want the cortisol up in the morning, melatonin we want up in the evening. And I am very sensitive, as a highly sensitive person, to light and sound as well. So as soon as the sun goes down, I put my blue light blocking glasses on right away, and it's so automatic. Like I've been doing it for years, so that's one of the big things that can change your sleep tremendously. And this is people really don't believe me until they start doing it. But the key is consistency. It's not something you do once a week. It's
Yeah.
it's something you have to do every single night. But it's like with every habit, if you do it, you just get used to it. It becomes your identity, and that's the ultimate goal, is changing your identity, right? So it becomes your identity and you just do it. You don't think about it. Like as soon as the sun goes down, I go grab my blue blockers, I put them on, and I don't take them off until I go to bed, and it has transformed my sleep. And this is one thing. I mean, there's so many other things obviously you can do to improve your sleep, but sleep is so crucial for detoxification. You're talking, your listeners. I mean, the most important thing is identifying the toxins, removing them, and helping the body detoxify from the toxic load. Because even though we remove majority of the toxins, we're living in a toxic world no matter what, right? But and we have to support the body naturally detoxify. Like, people do these big detoxes, which can be dangerous, honestly, sometimes, because you have to understand the biology, the biochemistry of detoxification and the organs. So it can be dangerous if you have too many toxins to just go on these big cleanses. But I tell people detoxification is a 24/7 process. Our body is not like, oh, I'm just going to detoxify now for a week and then I can put alcohol, sugar, and all this, bunch of stuff and in my body. Like it doesn't work that way. You want to support your detoxification 24/7 with tools. And one of the detoxification tools is wearing blue blocking glasses in the evening. And
Yes. I even
yeah.
have my clip-ons that I use at the desk after a while, because I mean, blue light in itself it's natural too, but there's, like, on a circadian rhythm, there's a certain amount of hours or certain time frames that you should be exposed to blue light, as if we were outside. Ancestrally, that's
Yes.
what we were. But I love to, after 2 p.m., especially, when we're in the daylight savings time, make sure after 2 or 3 p.m. to either adjust my monitors or make sure I clip on or put on the glasses that actually have them built in. So there's all kinds of things that people can invest in, and it doesn't have to be an expensive investment. Those clip-ons are probably $10 or $15. You can purchase some wraparound glasses to make sure you're blocking from all directions, especially at nighttime, which I like to do after, like you said, after sunset, because we don't want to have any of our like the normal lights that we have in our house. Granted, some people do have red lights. I've installed red lights in the bedrooms, and I have red lights, like stringed red lights for bathroom, just in case people need to go at night. So
Nice.
that's another interruption that people have at nighttime. They sometimes wake to
Yeah.
use the bathroom, or maybe they have some type of cortisol response at night. Can you talk to us about what you see in your clients in terms of having those disrupted sleep patterns?
Yeah, and I'm so glad to hear that you have all these red lights. That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many tools and so many things you can do. I myself have red light bulbs in my lamps as well. I mean, there's we can talk about this for days and days, all these little tools. But as far as if you're asking about, are you asking about like a cortisol dysfunction or like dysregulation, like especially in the evening and night
Yes, and
kind of
during
thing?
sleep, if we're
Yeah.
intended, or is there a specific time period that you recommend people to go to sleep at?
Yeah. Wow, I love this question. Yes, I do. I do recommend that people are in bed by 10:30 asleep because the deep sleep, which is the deep cleaning, that's when your brain finally takes break. Your brain is constantly working all the time. And the only time your brain actually takes rest, you can clean up, literally like imagining big machineries coming in and just repairing all the floors and the walls and just cleaning up everything is during deep sleep. And deep sleep happens uh, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. at the beginning of the sleep. So
Hmm.
people that are going to bed after 11 p.m., if you're not measuring your sleep with either Oura Ring or Whoop, you think you're sleeping, but like you're out, but you're not actually getting the regenerative detoxification, that kind of sleep that's necessary, and your cortisol is most likely up as well, which cortisol needs to be completely down during sleep. So, and and then adrenaline is down, epinephrine, all that stuff. So all those hormones. So it is really that is number one thing. Darkness, being bed by 10:30 p.m. and having some kind of a ritual before you go to bed so your body and mind can relax before. Because if you're scrolling in your phone, if you just reach a bunch of emails or you had a heated conversation with your partner or whatever is going on through your mind, there is a whatever deadline you have tomorrow, you're not going to be having that regenerative sleep that is absolutely necessary for health. So that is really, sleep is the most important thing for healthy body, for detoxification, getting
Hmm.
rid of everything emotionally, physically, in every way. Um, so going to bed by 10:30, having, the blue light blocking glasses or just having lights, having red light bulbs and having ceiling lights off, um, cold room, because your body temperature needs to drop 1 degree in order to actually fall asleep really easily and sleep through the deep sleep. Well, have a good deep sleep. And then the other thing is, what was I going to talk about? I just kind of lost it. Oh, no, the having some kind of a routine that's calming, whether it's what I do. So I'll tell you what I do. I do a little bit of stretching on the floor, just very gentle stretching. Sometimes if I'm too sore from exercise that day or whatever, I roll on the foam roller. And during that time, I have soft music playing, and then I sit on my bed and I do just a very deep, long breathing practice. And during that, just in my mind, I go through gratitude practice, which to me is thinking about all the things that day that made me feel good. Because before you go to bed, you don't want to be journaling on all the things that pissed you off or whatever
Hmm.
the problems you have. And I know a lot of people like get your to-do list done and whatever. I would do that an hour before you go to bed, get that out of your head. But right before you go to bed, it's time to think about the things that truly make you feel good and that you want in your life. So that's, even if I was looking at a deer passing by, because we live in nature where I live in California, or my flowers in a garden, or just saw somebody smiling on the street, whatever that is, it's just like I just pick up on the smallest things that I'm so grateful for that made me feel good. And then I think about what is it that I want my day or life or whatever that is, my intention, to be like the next day. And it's all positive, good feelings. And I think it's, especially during these times, it's really important, because sometimes the days are really hard. And that's why I tell people, even if it's just being grateful for the sunshine and feeling that in your body, that's much better way to fall asleep, and cortisol is going to be shut down, right? Because there is no way for cortisol to rise if you're feeling good.
Right. That does that triggers that parasympathetic mode to kick in when you're with Dr. Dr. Daniel Pompa always calls it vitamin G as vitamin gratitude. And I find that for some people, it's a little bit difficult to get into that gratitude state. And especially when they're struggling with chronic symptoms, chronic pain, following post-operative procedures and things like that. So do you have any tips for those people with limited mobility on top of that? Do you have any tips that can kind of get them to shift that mindset?
Yeah. And I'm glad you're asking these questions and really going deep, because I myself, I have been through a lot of pain, physical and emotional. And it, again, when this becomes your identity, that this is just what you do every night, then that's just who you are. That's what you do. And you always find something. Everything in the beginning is a little bit more difficult. So you have to know why you're doing it. You have to have the desire of what it is that you want, and you have to know the why. And then finding support. If you have somebody to talk to, that this is really what you want to do, helping people support you and remind you of things. But I'll tell you an example of last year in October, I had to have a back surgery, which was emergency back surgery. And it's connected to my trauma from my childhood. But I had disc problems with a couple of disc problems in my spine for many, many years. But I have been dealing with a lot of solving a lot of traumatic issues from my childhood with my mom and a lot of other stressors that were showing up in my present life because of that. Like, everything is connecting. Nothing is very linear and simple in one thing, right? So it's a very complex thing. But I got into a place where my nerve in the spine got stuck, and I'm still dealing with foot that's not completely recovered. The nerve got completely damaged. And I was in the most excruciating pain of my life. And because I know about pharmaceutical drugs, pain medication, and all of this medication, I was resisting so hard not to take it. So I was screaming most of the days. I had to still take the pain meds because I could not exist at all. Like, I could not even move. And my husband was taking care of me at the time, and it was extremely painful. I don't ever want anyone to experience such pain. And the reason I'm sharing this is because during that time, I still, because of my practice that I've been doing for years and years and years, I was able to find every day to be grateful for something, knowing that things could be worse. I was grateful for my husband being there. I was grateful for having a doctor who took me into surgery without there's just like whole insurance stuff and whatever. Like, yeah, it would take I don't know how many weeks for me to be approved. But he got on a call with the insurance, the surgeon, and got me into surgery in 10 days. Otherwise, like I said, it would have taken weeks. And so I was finding all these little things, all these little moments, having my husband didn't know how to cook. He had to literally learn how to feed me during that time. So, there's just what I'm trying to say. There is always something that you can find, and I call it the light. There is always a little light. We just have to open ourselves to access it. And I know it's hard. I have been in excruciating physical pain. I have grown up in a very violent household where I was scared most of my childhood. Every single day, I had no idea what was going to happen in my home. But there is always that light. There is always something that you can grab onto and be grateful for, whether it's having a roof over your head, or whether it's having that one person. There's always something. It's just it's a daily practice. And I have my morning practice every day that I do, it's absolutely non-negotiable. So with these practices, we were able to then, in those hard times, shift the mindset and help us get through whatever we're going through.
And making it a routine, like you said, that is so pertinent because there are times that we get so busy and we start making shifts in what we've already outlined, as you said, as non-negotiable. And when that happens, some people might notice that the uptick of symptoms, and I specifically do. I know I had my morning practice too, and I volunteered to participate in a POTS study, a postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome study, where first thing in the morning and right before bed, I have to do certain measurements. Well, that is a stressor to me, and it has definitely impacted the way I wake up and at least 2 or 3 hours before I can find myself more at a baseline. And then the same thing at night. I think at night it's a little bit easier because I do a brain tap afterwards. The brain tap app is something a tool that I love. I absolutely love. And I do have the eyewear that goes with it. So it has not only is it the binaural beats and the
You have the
guided
lights.
meditation, yes, the lights, but not necessary. So, you could just use a pair of earphones and do that kind of thing, or just listen to calming music. So I know with respect to what you're saying, there was a period of time in my life, probably, oh gosh, maybe 4 or 5 months, actually, a long period of time where I could not find something to be grateful for. And I was stuck in that, actually, I could call it freeze. You have fight, flight, or freeze. And I was really stuck in that freeze mode where my one-mindedness about getting this explant surgery done, that's really what pulled me along. But it was a very distraught period of time where I was completely hopeless. I was disconnected from family. And it took time to build that practice eventually. Like when I went into more of a functional space and holistic space, it took time to build the practice. And I did it more out of, I guess, a routine, like a strict routine. I know I had to do it, but I wasn't finding the joy until many months into it. So I
Yeah.
just share that to say that even if you don't see it right now, the consistency will pay off in the end.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why we're having these conversations. And it's important for people to have these kind of conversations, hopefully to spark something inside people that, don't wait until something happens, because you're doing these practices. So when something does happen, you have the tool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for someone who might be overwhelmed and kind of unsure as where to begin, what are maybe 2 or 3 simple but very high impact changes that they could make today to start reducing the toxin burden emotionally, spiritually, and physically?
Mm. Well, it depends on where you are in your life and what you're dealing with, because there is that emotional, spiritual, and physical, and it's all connected, right? But I would start with morning practice. That's the morning practice is really going to set the tone for the day. It's also what I teach during seminars, my clients and everyone, it's called sit and release. That's the simplest way of starting your morning practice and getting grounded in your body. And it just consists of even 5 minutes in the morning, when you get up first thing in the morning, making sure you don't grab that phone. And I know that's freaking difficult, right? But let's be honest, as soon as you grab that phone, everything is thrown off. Because when you wake up in the morning, the first time that you wake up, the cortisol and adrenaline wakes you up, you're in alpha state, and you're in this beautiful state when you're coming from the dreamy REM sleep to being awakened. And when I wake up in the morning, and I'm kind of going, I'm going kind of backwards now, but I want people to understand that when you wake up and you keep your eyes closed and you just lay there for just give yourself a few minutes to stay laying in your bed with your eyes closed and processing your dreams, or just being aware of your body, being aware of your breath, and really, because the biggest thing is really connecting back to our body and our heart, because we're so much in our head. What happens when you grab that phone? You go to your head, your cortisol spikes, your adrenaline goes up, you're completely disconnected from your body. It's just everything is off, right? And you have no idea, now anymore what you're actually feeling in your body, what you're feeling. There is no way of processing things properly. I mean, relationship wise, your health wise, everything is just, we need to be connected to our body. So I would say that's how I started, and it completely changed my life. And I've been able to really remember my dreams better. And I say dreams are like the free therapy. There's a lot of messages in the dreams as well, because we're processing a lot of things during dreams. And then, so get rid of the phone, do this process, get up and go to the same place every morning and just sit and release. And sitting is just, again, being with your body and really feeling your body. And you can ask yourself a simple question: what do I need? And just sit with that question. Have a pen and paper next to you, not a phone. And whatever comes up, write it down. And this is not about writing essays. This is not about writing anything. Sometimes I just write a bunch of stuff. I don't even know what I'm writing. And then some release comes from it. It can be something that I had a conversation with my daughter, or it can be something that my dad said when I was little, or I'm going through with my mom right now. Whatever that is, it just pops up because I'm connected to my body. So I'm allowing now whatever is being stored there to actually come up so it can be released. I don't have to have any big, discussions about anything, but I'm actually allowing it to finally come up and release it from my body. So that is not overwhelming. That can be literally 5 minutes. And yeah, it can turn into 30 minutes, and sometimes it can be even longer if you have the time and things are coming through. That's beautiful. I mean, it happens to me all the time. But this is where I would start. That's very simple. And then we can go further into the other things that are very beneficial to overall health, physical, emotional. If you want me to go there, we can go there. But this is a very simple, not overwhelming thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to the whole cell phone use, I know so many people, they say they rely on it to check the news, and that's probably the worst thing you could do first thing in the morning. And so I know there's an app called the Pour Over, and I've used it in the past, but I even turned it down to where I only get the notifications once a week so that I'm not seeing that, even if it's 1 or 2 hours into the day, I don't want to be bombarded by all of the media. So that's there's other tools out there, I'm sure, in terms of limiting how you receive your media and maybe not getting it in the dire state that you usually get it from the local channels, for instance. But with that, I know the cortisol dysregulation that's happening there, as you say, when, traditionally we want to see that cortisol elevation gradually, that 30 minutes of wake up, that's when we get to the highest point. But it's not meant to be as soon as you open your eyes. So that's why I bring that up. And then we should have the gradual contour down, of course, towards the afternoon and then the evening. But when we have these time intervals where we allow stress to overtake us without unplugging from whether it be technology or the situation at hand, then our cortisol becomes very dysregulated. We don't get into that nighttime mode, and then it impacts the sleep. So it's kind of a vicious cycle there.
Yeah, it is. And people then want medication, then want supplements, they want this, and that's, I'm like, no, 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 no. There is no magical supplement and medication or whatever. You really have to create habits in your life that will support your health. There is no way around it. And when you're talking about the gradual cortisol up too, is getting sunlight in your eyes, that I'm sure your listeners have heard of. That's really important to set the circadian rhythm. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Adriana, too, because then people, they set their alarms for the morning to get up and start their day, but it's really optimal to set an alarm for night when you should start winding down the day.
Yeah.
And then something that I've been trying to do more recently is setting an alarm. It's more of a mental alarm at this point because it's become a routine, that when sunset is about to happen, and to try to make sure I get out there at that time of day so that can begin the signaling process for melatonin production.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we want to spend more time outside whenever possible.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. Actually, I want to go back to kind of double click on the apps. The app that you're using to help you is so true. I have an app called, I think it's called Freedom. That turns my social media off at 6 p.m. and doesn't turn it back on until 8 a.m. because I'm a human too. Like, I know that I might have that one morning, like, oh, I'm just gonna check if, whatever. Like, no, like we have to use these tools. That's what these tools are for.
Mhm.
And a lot of them are for free. That we use them so that we can support our health and feel better. So I'm glad you said that. Yeah, there's so many things. So
I'm going to use that app because I put my phone on airplane mode to go to sleep, but there's still a few hours that I should not have it, the alarms coming on for social media or for emails even.
yeah, free. I think it's called Freedom. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your books. I know you have The Light, Living Your Truth and Live Well, right? Empowering
Mhm.
Habits for Vibrant Health and Unstoppable Energy. So you have those two books. And which one did you say is up and coming in May?
Yeah, so I self-published the book Light, The Light, Living Your Truth, and it's just a small little book. People can get it on Amazon. It's more about the inner environment, about your happiness, joy, forgiveness, and it was kind of a calling for me to write that book honestly, for myself, and I self-published it. But the Live Well, Empowering Habits for Vibrant Health, I got a publisher for that book. It's an amazing book for health transformation. Anyone who is done with chasing all these quick fixes and being on medication, or anybody who is trying to prevent diseases and want to really understand their body and environment and how to create health and support their health. That one is coming out May 13th. So anybody who pre-orders it, buys it before, there's a bunch of free bonuses that they get with the pre-order of the book.
And we'll have that linked in the show notes as a
Thank
pre-order.
you.
For sure. And I know that many people, they're looking for resources anyway. I love that it's more of a comprehensive approach and that you're looking at it from the different pillars of holistic health. Do you want to just talk a little bit on each of those main points?
Yeah, so as I said, it's a very clear, practical, science-backed roadmap to understand your body and your environment. And we mentioned the word overwhelmed a few times. So this is really moving from overwhelmed to confidence. Really know what you're supposed to do without relying on somebody else, because really health is your responsibility. And I created this method of, gosh, after over 2 decades of my own journey and having other businesses where I was supporting people in their health and sustainable living. So I created this Live Well methodology, and it's basically 4 pillars that covers the environment. That's the inner and outer environment, food, sleep, and movement. It's this circle, and they're all connected together. Like I tell people, when you have a seed of an oak tree, the seed needs healthy soil, that's your environment. It needs the sunlight and it needs water in order to grow. You can't separate one from the other. And unfortunately, when we think about health, we tend to just focus on food. We tend to just focus on sleep. We tend to just focus on exercise, right? But we really have to understand that we're a system, just like everything in nature. And we really have to connect the environment, the food, sleep, and movement together and think of it that way if we want to create optimal health. So I have gotten really amazing reviews from early readers. I'm very happy because everybody says that it's very accessible, it's very easy to follow. And I also teach people there that symptoms, the things that we don't like, all the pains and aches, are really truly something to be grateful for. There are messages. They're telling us that what we're doing is not serving our body and it's fueling disease instead of fueling health. So
Mhm.
we have to, the book really teaches you how to stop in each of those pillars. And it's not just about telling you what to do, but it really understanding, teaching you about why and how to understand these symptoms, understand your body. And there is no more guessing. I just can't stand guessing how people just go, try this, try that. It's like, no, there's no trying anymore. There's no guessing anymore. There's no restrictions. It really comes from proven solutions that work. They're very holistic based. And yeah, and there's also at the end of the book are recipes. They're my favorite recipes made from real whole foods. They're very easy to make at home, nourishing and good.
Really good. And would that be available for people when they're purchasing the book? You said it's accessible. So would it outline also like the macronutrients that they'd be getting from each of the recipes so that they know, if they're a fast oxidizer or a slow oxidizer, which recipes to hone in on?
So this is not a recipe book.
Okay.
It's that was not really the focus, but at the end of the book is their recipes. They're just focused on real food
Okay.
that cover what I teach in food, the creating your plate, thinking about plants, protein, healthy fats, spices, and fermented foods. So every single
Beautiful.
meal is covering sustainable plants, sustainable protein, healthy fats like avocado oil, olive oil, and if you can handle butter, and butter is fine. Saturated fats, not everybody's can process saturated fats, but that. And then spices are extremely important antioxidants, and fermented foods for the gut microbiome. If you can handle it, I also talk about that in a book because some people cannot if they don't process histamine, if they have genetic mutations. So I try to really tap into a lot of things that many people don't talk about. I don't talk about diets and all that stuff. That is not important at all. This is not a book focused on specific diseases. This is book focused on understanding your body, how your body functions,
Yeah.
why, what mitochondria is. There are a lot of people that don't know what that is, what the term means. So I really break it down in a very easy, digestible, understanding way so they can understand, like, okay, this is why I have to eat these things. This is what happens when it gets into my body, into the cells, into the mitochondria, what comes out of that production. This is what happens in the microbiome inside my gut. I call it the dream team, the mitochondria microbiome, the M&M. So I really go into kind of a general understanding, and the recipes just follow that. It's not broken down into micronutrients, none of that, because that's really not my purpose. It was more about, all of these meals are very simple to make. And, like, for example, there is a salmon hummus bowl, right? So you have the wild salmon, you have the beans. I make hummus with white beans, and then you have some other vegetables there, and just like kind of a overall very filling, nutritious foods that cover all of the ingredients that we're supposed to have.
Yeah, the beautiful simplicity of whole food based meals, like sort of a paleo style, but not necessarily. And I know that when people trial some of these recipes that you put together, they can get a sense of what's working best for them and make the minor adjustments if needed. But I think with that as a guidance, a lot of people struggle with even just developing something to put on their plate. So I appreciate that you
Exactly.
did include that. I appreciate your overview on the energy production, and I'm sure I'm going to pick up the book myself to get a deeper dive into what you offer. So that being said, how can people reach out to you, learn a little bit more about you, or maybe well, we'll say we're going to share the link to your book, but what else can they do with you?
Yeah, thank you. So my website is yourwellness-madesimple.com, and my book is there. The book is called Live Well. They can find it on Amazon, but it's best is to just get on my website. They can get in touch with me through the website. I read all the emails and I respond to all the emails when people email me. My newsletters are an amazing way to connect with me because every single week I share one simple shift that people can actually do and manage for that week. And it's amazing because people actually reply, I did this, or what, like the lady that I was talking about earlier in the newsletter, she was talking about the cheese in plastic. Oh my God, what can I do here? So, and I let her know right away what she can do. So that's really the best way. I'm on Instagram as well to let the world know about my book, but it is not my main focus. I really focus on my email and being in touch with my followers there. And I have private clients. I don't have that many clients, but I always I'm happy to talk to people. And even if I can't take them on, I'm happy to give them some kind of a support and advice where they can go further. And I'm working with a local functional medicine doctor and creating some programs for bigger groups of people, so I can reach more people to help them.
Beautiful. So we will share again your website on the show notes, and I do encourage everyone to sign up and pre-order the book. So again, Adriana, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, and we do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Sharon. It was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all our listeners. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.